Everyone, Maurice Ain here. Welcome to Things Invest, where we're going to be talking about finance, investing, and personal developments. For today's video is for entertainment purposes only. What I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to be talking about the Coinbase IPO that's going to be scheduled to debut tomorrow on April 14th. And I believe, based on my sources, it's going to be debuting sometimes around 9 a.m. Pacific time or 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to be giving you guys my perspective on the IPO as a whole, its potential valuation, the business model as a whole as well. I'm also going to give you my price predictions for the IPO price point and what's my plan for tomorrow. Am I going to be buying or am I going to be holding off, watching the price, how it's going to fluctuate going forward? I'm going to give you guys my strategy as a download. So stay tuned, stick around, and let's make some money together. My name is Maurice. I am a former investment banker at JP Morgan and subsequently a private equity investor for about half a decade, and most recently a tech executive at a technology company based in San Francisco, California. So now I come here on YouTube, try to utilize the knowledge and the experience that I've acquired in the last 1 decade of my life. I try to help people around the world on YouTube to reach that financial goal, that financial freedom that we're all striving for. All I'm asking for you guys to do is to hit that like button below, that subscribe button below, and that bell notification. I plan on posting about 2 to 4 times a week. It helps me, it helps with my family, it helps, most importantly, the YouTube algorithm to hopefully spread the good work that I'm trying to do here today, so we can all rise together financially and successfully. So I spent the bulk of this morning and sometimes in the afternoon to do a lot of research, reading up on what Coinbase does as a business as a whole and some of the financial metrics as well. And I pulled together this like high-level preliminary summary for you guys to hopefully keep you guys up to speed on what Coinbase does as a whole, in case you guys just are learning about this investment opportunity for the first time. So Coinbase is the largest U.S. cryptocurrency exchange with over 50 cryptocurrencies for trading on the platform at the moment. And as of Q1 2021, it has over 56 million verified users on the platform, which is a substantial growth compared to last year in Q4 2020 with 43 million active users. And with respect to the financial metrics, 96% of revenue, which is a substantial amount of the revenue concentration, comes directly from the transaction fees that it transacts on the platform, and 4% only comes from the new initiative called the Coinbase Commerce, which is a initiative that they have to provide for e-commerce retailers or merchants to transact with cryptocurrencies, and Coinbase provides them with a contractor service to help these merchants on the transactions intricacies and the infrastructures as well. Lastly, with respect to some of the high-level financial metrics that we want to be mindful of, is that Q1, the assets under management or the assets that's currently being traded on the platform, $223 billion has been traded. That's currently being managed on the platform as of Q1 this year, which accounts for 11.3% of the total cryptocurrency market share, which is a substantial amount if you look at that in that perspective. It's a big chunk of the pie versus last year of only 90 billion, which you can see is a substantial growth. And the number the number I want to emphasize is that the last year as a whole only 90 billion. But this year in Q1, which is only 1/3 of 2021 so far, was only April right now, it's already grown to become 223 billion, which is a substantial exponential growth. With respect to the trading volume, 335 billion of trading volume versus last year, 193 billion as the entire year. So Q1 of this year has already grown substantially compared to last year as a whole. With respect to revenue, you could see that 1.8 billion in Q1 2021 versus last year in not just Q4 but the entire year, 1.3 billion as well. And as for the net income for 2021, 730 million to 800 million, according to the investor relations report that was published on Coinbase website, versus last year of 322 million. as a whole. As you can see, just on the financial metrics as a whole, and also with respect to the verified subscribers growth as a whole, is extremely impressive numbers as a whole, right? Um, so that's the Coinbase overview, and the next portion I'm going to be going through my rationale and my perspective on what I think as a business as a whole. Despite the impressive financial growth and the explosive customer subscriber growth that the company is currently experiencing, I gotta give props to management team, and the business model is definitely, is no joke to be growing at that level. It's like it's exponential, it's explosive. But as an investor, it doesn't make sense to just buy because of the hype. It doesn't make sense to just put your money in it because it feels like it's the next big thing, or it's like because it's been growing explosively. We don't want to buy things when it's on at the all-time peak premium level. We want to buy at a discount. You always buy low, sell high, right? You don't want to buy when it's at premium valuations, right? So taking a step back, after doing a lot of research and trying to look at the business, in the most unbiased level as possible, I've come up with this list of rationale here to, basically bring me down a little bit down to earth to more of a realistic case level. Okay, so here's my rationale, and I basically broke it down into 4 buckets, right? So firstly, high valuations. I definitely believe that Coinbase, the IPO is definitely priced at a relatively high premium level, and I think based on what Wall Street is projecting is going to be about $100 billion in market cap for business for Coinbase. And if you look at that, relatively speaking, that's 2 times larger than the combined revenue of New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq exchange combined. If you look at in comparisons of valuing this company at 100 billion market cap, right? And I also heard some Wall Street analysts said that it might even push up to a 200 billion or 175 billion market cap on the IPO debut. I mean, that's like 4 times larger than the combined exchange. You know, that sounds a little bit too I don't know, out of to the moon, if you may. I hope the stocks goes to the moon, but like that's a little bit too unrealistic in my to my appetites. So that's something to think about, right? The second one is the competitions, right? And Coinbase is definitely one of the key players in the cryptocurrency exchange space. But as you have more competitions, competition will further drive down the transaction fees level. We saw how Robinhood, and other stock exchange mobile apps are allowing for no commission fees. And subsequently, a lot of the brokers like the E-Trade, Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, they start reducing or completely getting rid of their commission fees, and which subsequently cut down to the profit margin substantially, right? So right now we know that the transaction fees for Coinbase is 0.6%, and with respect to that, in a relatively speaking comparable perspective, that's 46 times higher than its rivals like Gemini, Binance, and I know there are so many other alternatives out there. So that's a really substantial, price transaction fees percentage compared to comparable businesses, right? And with respect to the growth that we saw in Q4, in Q1 this year versus last year as a whole, for this year, Coinbase have dumped huge amount of marketing dollars in comparison to 2020. Um, and it's just in Q1 itself, it spent 3 times as much of marketing dollars um, compared to last year as a whole. Just think about that. They have been throwing money into the marketing spend, and with this much marketing spend, they basically create a lot of like, obviously, market awareness, and subsequently hyped up and pumped up the price, in a valuation perspective ahead of the IPO, which I understand is a strategic move on their part, and I understand why they did what they did. But that's something to look at. Like, they did pumped up a lot into marketing spend in just Q1 compared to last year, which you know has some correlations to the hype. So the price point of the IPO might be a little bit inflated with this, like, media and marketing hype, right? And the third point is the lack of maturity and the high fluctuation of cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies, even though there's been a lot of, corporate adoptions, you see that Tesla, Elon Musk have invested $1.5 billion into cryptocurrency, into Bitcoin, and we also see that a lot of institutions are starting to buy, and a lot of mutual funds as well are starting to buy. We see that a lot of banks, including JP Morgan, which, Jamie Dimon, I think a couple of years ago, he was totally against, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. But now I believe that JP Morgans and some other banks around the world are starting to offer their high net worth clients and their asset management arm cryptocurrency or Bitcoin as a form of, money management solution. And also just look at the chart right here. Let's look at the Bitcoin, right? It's definitely on an uptrend, as you can see. So on the chart, it looks like a huge hockey stick right now, and it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. It just looks like a rocket ship going up, up, up in a way. But it is quite, volatile if you look at the price point, right? Just look at just in the last 6 months, right? I think 6 months ago it was like trading around like the four digits, right? A couple $1,000, and next thing you know, and it's been growing like $1,000 per week ever since, or $10,000 per month ever since. To at one point around like in January last year, it went up all the way to like the 40K. And I believe this was really driven by the news that got broke out that Elon Musk or Tesla decided to invest $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, which subsequently drove this rally, and then more corporations follow, and adopt this. And now it has this like kind of consolidation movement, and then the next pumped again, all the way, from $35,000 all the way to the $55,000 level. So this is basically a spend of, you know, less than a month, really, like 20 something days for you to get 20K of a gain in Bitcoin, and then kind of subside from there. And this is, I believe, was driven by the correlations to the growth stocks that has been selling off, and I think it kind of drove down the price of Bitcoin a little bit. It does have some correlation to growth stocks, and subsequently it kind of rallied back up. So now I think we are we are at the all-time high right now. We went to the $62,000 level and been consolidated ever since, and now it just keep going up, up and away, 64,000. And I think whatever comes down really, really fast comes down really, really fast at the same time. So, with this growth, I think this is pretty scary. I think looking at the chart right now, it definitely, it shows some. I think on the MACD is crossing right now, so that's a continued bullish momentum going forward. On the RSI, you could see that it's a little bit, overbought. Not overbought. It's like at an optimal level right now. So I still see Bitcoin continue to push up to, I believe, it might hit $75,000 by May or sometimes in June. It's gonna keep going up from there. And Ethereum, you could see that is the trajectory has been pretty comparable. Obviously, much smaller market cap, but I think Ethereum is like the silver in comparison to Bitcoin, which is like in comparison to gold. And you could see that the rally has been pretty substantial. I personally have bought in a large amount of my assets. I actually allocated 10% of my personal assets into cryptocurrencies. I believe I allocated about 5% of the entire holding of my cryptocurrencies holding into Ethereum, and I bought in around like $67 level. And ever since, it has rewarded me majorly. The growth has been pretty much in correlations to how Bitcoin has been trending as well, and it's going up, up and away as well. So definitely, impressive growth overall, but definitely highly volatile, like you said, right? with still a lot of risk involved into this. With respect to just Coinbase on in terms of its revenue streams as a whole, there is a high revenue concentration in the Bitcoin revenue streams. 56% of its current cryptocurrencies assets being managed on the platform right now is comprised of Bitcoin Ethereum transactions. And let's say one day Bitcoin dips by like 20%, that will have a huge negative correlation to the stock price of Coinbase, right? And knowing the fact, like I said in my point number 3, right, there is still a lot of unknown. I think cryptocurrency is still at the infancy stage, still in the early innings of the growth trajectory, right? There's still a lot to be proven, globally speaking, economically speaking, and socially speaking, right? I don't think we are really utilizing, cryptocurrencies to, us, for commerce. We're not really utilizing Bitcoin or Ethereum to buy stuff yet, right? But I believe, the end goal, next 5 to 10 years, we will get there subsequently. But for me right now, I think, with respect to this 4 risks that I've identified here, these are, not risks that you can just like kind of, forget about, or like that can make me feel, comfortable sleeping at night. These are risks that are, major unknowns, and this, some of the, with respect to my bullet point number 1 here on the valuation side, this sounds kind of like a stretch to me, right? And on top of the competitions and the lack of uncertainty with the high fluctuations of just the, the correlations to how fluctuating Bitcoin can be, it makes me worry as an investor. On a short-term perspective, I definitely think that, long-term wise, there's great potential there. But for me to know to have confidence in that, I still need to further verify. I trust in the business. I trust that it will happen, but I need to verify. And for me to verify, it means that I will probably hold off on buying on IPO right now until they've really proven themselves. Okay? Okay, so what's the game plan for tomorrow, right? Based on everything that we know so far about the business and the valuation and some of the risk factors that we have identified so far. So here's my game plan, right? So IPO is dated for tomorrow, right? We know that the shares offering is going to be 114.9 million shares, and the worth of shares offering is going to be combined of about $5 billion that they are offering to sell to us as common investors. And contingent on like what market cap they are proposing to us, that's still up for discussions. That we still don't know what Wall Street's really pricing this at and what the management team has decided to go with at the moment. But here's a couple of different scenarios that we have right now below, right? So the IPO price, I think on the media and all the news are saying that it's going to be $100 billion market cap. And if we did some calculation, that would translate to somewhere around like $400 per share for the stock price, right? But also heard some news that it might push up to 175 to 230 billion because how they see Bitcoin and Ethereum are going from there. It could drag up the price going forward. That cryptocurrency is going to be the next big thing. It's going to completely cannibalize New York Stock Exchange, US dollar, and all that stuff. That whole mythical scenario that they're proposing, that it could be possible, but I think the likelihood of that happening at this current stage of our economy, at this current level in our present time right now, is highly unlikely. So if it goes up to 175 billion to 230 billion, which is the range that I've seen on the news and some of the articles that came out, that could demand somewhere around like $650 to $850 per share, which I see that likelihood is very unlikely. I give it probably like 5% of likelihood that that will be the price, because that would be pretty insane. And I would really question why the management team and Wall Street are really doing that, because that's just out of the reach completely, right? And I would think if they actually come down to 70 billion as a market cap. I think, maybe why not? Because I looked into the private market valuations, the current inside investors. Um, they actually have many of the private investors actually bought in at that around that market cap of 70 billions at that valuations, and which that translates to about like 337 something per shares. But I just put that as like 340, just round that up to 10 digits just for illustrative purposes, so it just makes the number easier to round with. So if that's the case, knowing the fact that a lot of institutions and corporations or private investors have already invested at this price point, I don't mind investing in this price point if that was the valuations, right? And if we see even like going down to like 50 billion, which I don't see that to be happening. I give this like another 5% of likelihood that will happen. That would translate to somewhere around like $250 per share, which I would totally grab up if that was the case, because that's a total steal, in my perspective, right? So for tomorrow, whatever price will be, if it's below the range of the IPO price right here, if you just like try to highlight this here, if it's like somewhere around the range of like 400 to 250, 250, or somewhere in between, I might, if you have like $1,000, right, or if you're aiming to build up the Coinbase shares to like 1,000 share, right, I might put in maybe 10% of your holding, like maybe buy 100 shares on the IPO day and see what happens. If it goes down, it goes down, and you just basically buy the dip, and slowly build that up, right? And I think that's the best way to invest as a long-term investor, because we're not wizards. I don't think anybody can predict the future. No one really can understand where the price is going. It could be going sideways, it could be going in circles, it could be going crazy up and down. We don't know, right? But all we can do is to dollar cost average, and to dollar cost average is to not time the market and buy at a fair valuation that you think makes sense to me. And I think somewhere around like the 250 to 400, that makes sense to me in terms of the market cap valuation that is proposing, right? But just know that Coinbase is definitely more of a riskier stock with a lot to prove going forward, despite the exponential growth that's been experiencing so far. Okay, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video today on understanding my rationale and my perspective on the Coinbase IPO with respect to the business model, its valuation, and some of the risk factors that we've identified today. Please hit the like button below, subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions for me, or feel free to directly message me. Stay tuned, and please look out for more videos coming. Thank you very much.